you ever looked around and wondered why the people who seem to move differently, think differently, and rise higher always seem to walk alone? Why the man who refuses to settle, who sees the world through a deeper lens, often finds himself isolated, misunderstood, or even rejected? It's not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's the price of being chosen. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly why a chosen man always walks alone. See, when you are chosen, you're not meant to blend in. You're not wired like everyone else. While most people are chasing comfort, validation, and approval, a chosen man is chasing purpose, clarity, and truth. That difference in direction automatically separates you from the crowd. You don't walk alone because you're unworthy of company. You walk alone because you're being prepared for something far greater than ordinary people can comprehend. Most people live for noise. They can't stand silence. They fill their lives with constant distraction, constant comparison, and constant approval seeking. But a chosen man, he learns to love the silence, because in the silence, he hears the voice of his destiny. He listens to the quiet whisper that says, keep going. Even if no one understands, even if no one believes, even if it hurts. That's where real strength is built, not in the crowd, not in the applause, but in the lonely grind that no one sees. You see, walking alone doesn't mean you're empty. It means that you're full of purpose, full of focus, full of vision. And sometimes that fullness makes others uncomfortable when you stop gossiping, when you stop complaining, when you start talking about growth, healing, purpose, and discipline. The people who still live in chaos will call you distant, cold, or arrogant. They'll think you've changed. And they're right. You've evolved. You've outgrown what no longer feeds your spirit. The chosen man doesn't walk alone because he wants to. He walks alone because he must. Because when you're being elevated, not everyone can breathe the air at your altitude. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes. And not everyone can handle that level of discipline, solitude, or clarity. You have to let some people go, not out of hate, but out of necessity. You can't take everyone where you're going. Some people were only meant to walk with you for a chapter, not the entire story. And that's one of the hardest truths for a chosen man to accept. You'll try to bring people with you. You'll try to make them see what you see. Feel what you feel, believe what you believe, but they won't, they can't, because their calling is different. Their journey isn't yours. You're being shaped by different fires, tested by different storms. And until you realize that solitude is not a punishment, but a preparation, you'll keep fighting what was always meant to strengthen you. You see, isolation has a purpose. It's where God, the universe, whatever you believe in, removes distractions so you can hear clearly. It's where you're stripped of fake friends, shallow relationships, and weak habits. It's where you're forced to face yourself, to confront your fears, your insecurities, your doubts. And only then do you begin to see what you're really made of, because you can't lead others until you learn to lead yourself. You can't guide a crowd if you've never conquered your own silence. That's why walking alone is not a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate display of strength. It means you've learned to trust yourself, to depend on your vision, to listen to your intuition, even when the world calls you crazy. Every chosen man goes through this season. Think about it. Every great leader, every visionary, every man who changed history went through a period of isolation before his rise. Jesus went into the wilderness. Moses spent years in exile. Nelson Mandela sat in prison. These weren't coincidences. They were divine setup. Moments where solitude built unshakable strength. But let me tell you something. Walking alone doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you stop needing them to validate your worth. You stop trying to prove yourself to those who don't even understand your mission. You stop explaining your vision to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. Because when you're chosen, not everyone will see what you see. You were given eyes that notice the invisible, a heart that feels the unseen, and a spirit that senses the unspoken. You're different for a reason. And yes, that difference can feel heavy. It can feel like a curse at times. You'll look around and wonder, Why do I feel disconnected from the world? But that's because you're not meant to fit in. You're meant to stand out. You're not built for the comfort zone. You're built for the growth zone. And growth is never comfortable. Growth isolates. Growth stretches. Growth exposes who's really for you and who's only around for convenience. The chosen man learns to embrace being misunderstood, because he realizes that people only see from their level of awareness. When they can't comprehend your mindset, they label it arrogance. When they can't match your consistency, they call it obsession. When they can't handle your boundaries, they say you're selfish. But a chosen man doesn't argue. He smiles, keeps quiet, and keeps walking because he knows time reveals what talkers try to hide. Walking alone also forces you to build inner peace. When there's no one to lean on, you discover how strong your faith really is. When there's no one cheering you on, you learn to clap for yourself. When there's no one checking on you, you learn to nurture your own mind and spirit. That's where emotional independence is born, when you realize your peace doesn't depend on anyone else. And let me tell you this. Solitude sharpens your vision. When you're not distracted by noise, gossip, or validation, your focus becomes razor sharp. You start to notice what truly matters. You start seeing patterns in life, lessons in pain, and blessings in disappointment. Every setback becomes a teacher. Every rejection becomes redirection. That's how a chosen man transforms pain into power, by using solitude as a weapon, not a wound. The world teaches men to chase validation, to prove themselves through status, money, or relationships. But a chosen man knows that validation is an illusion. Real confidence comes from alignment. When your actions align with your purpose, you stop chasing approval. You move in silence because your energy speaks louder than your words. You don't need to tell people what you're building. They'll see it when it's finished. Walking alone also teaches you patience. Because when you're chosen, your journey takes longer. You can't take shortcuts. You can't cheat the process. While others seem to be racing ahead, you're being refined in the background. But what they build fast often crumbles faster. What you build in silence lasts for generations. That's why your progress feels slow. It's because your foundation is deep. And during that lonely process, doubt will whisper, fear will creep in. You'll question if the silence means failure. But no, silence often means preparation. The universe goes quiet before your breakthrough. It's in those quiet seasons that your faith is tested. Will you still move when no one claps? Will you still believe when everything looks still? That's the difference between a chosen man and a common one. A chosen man moves by conviction, not by comfort. There will be nights when you want to quit, days when you feel like no one sees your effort. But remember, isolation is part of your anointing. You're not being ignored. You're being hidden. Hidden until the time is right. Hidden until your character matches your calling. Hidden until your strength becomes unshakable. Because if you rise too early, the weight of your purpose could crush you. The waiting, the loneliness, the separation, it's all protection, not punishment. And when you finally emerge, you'll see why you had to walk alone. You'll understand why the friendships faded, why the relationships fell apart, why the opportunities were delayed. Because had they stayed, they would have distracted you. They would have diluted your focus. They would have kept you from becoming the man you were born to be. Solitude wasn't rejection, it was refinement. Every chosen man eventually realizes that walking alone doesn't mean walking empty. Because even when no one's beside you, something greater walks with you. Purpose walks with you. Faith walks with you. Vision walks with you. Every step you take alone is building the strength to lead many later. Your loneliness today is training you for leadership tomorrow. You'll reach a point where solitude doesn't scare you anymore. It fuels you. You'll start craving quiet because you've learned that peace is more valuable than popularity. You'll choose growth over gossip, discipline over distraction, and peace over people pleasing. You'll stop explaining yourself. Stop seeking validation. Stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. That's when you step into your true power, the power of being unapologetically you. And you'll notice something beautiful when you fully embrace walking alone. The right people start appearing, not because you chased them, but because your energy attracted them. Your solitude built a frequency that only those aligned with your purpose can feel. You'll attract loyalty, depth, and authenticity, not the kind of company that fills time, but the kind that fuels destiny. But before that happens, you must endure the silence. You must get comfortable being misunderstood. You must walk through seasons where it's just you and your purpose, because greatness demands isolation. Destiny demands discipline, and legacy demands that you stand firm even when you stand alone. A chosen man doesn't walk alone forever, but he must walk alone first, because only through solitude does he discover who he truly is. Only through solitude does he build the unshakable confidence that no storm can break. Only through solitude does he learn that the path to greatness isn't crowded. It's narrow, it's quiet, and it's walked by few. So if you're watching this and you feel alone, if you feel like no one understands your drive, your focus, your hunger, understand this, your hunger. You are not broken, you are being built. You are not lost, you are being led. You are not forgotten, you are being prepared. Every chosen man must walk through the wilderness before he reaches his promise. Every chosen man must endure silence before he can speak with authority. This is your season of separation. Don't run from it. Don't fight it. Embrace it. Let the loneliness refine you. Let the silence strengthen you. Let the solitude show you who you really are. Because when you finally step into your calling, you'll realize the walk alone was never lonely. It was sacred. It was where you met your true self. It was where you built unshakable faith, unbreakable strength, and undeniable vision. And one day when you look back, you'll be grateful for every night you walked alone, because those were the nights that shaped the man you've become. The chosen man doesn't walk alone to escape the world. He walks alone to rise above it. He walks alone because destiny has a path that only his feet were made to travel. And while the world chases comfort, he chases purpose. While others settle, he ascends. While others follow trends, he follows truth. So keep walking even if the path is quiet. Keep moving. Even if no one claps, keep believing even when you can't see the finish line. Because one day, everything you endured in silence will echo loudly through the world. One day, the same people who doubted your solitude will be inspired by your strength. That's why a chosen man always walks alone, because he's not just walking for himself. He's walking to lead others. He's walking to awaken others. He's walking to become the man destiny designed him to be. Keep walking, chosen one. The world may not understand you now, but one day they'll see exactly why you walked alone. And when you truly start to understand isolation, you realize it's not meant to destroy you. It's meant to transform you. Because isolation is where pain turns into wisdom and purpose turns into power. It's the place where the chosen man stops running from his wounds and starts learning from them. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every season of rejection becomes a lesson. And those lessons don't just shape who you are, they sharpen who you're becoming. Pain becomes your teacher, silence becomes your mentor, and solitude becomes your training ground. When life pulls you away from people, when doors close and plans fall apart, that's when your real evolution begins. You start seeing that every painful moment wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every time you were forced to sit alone, every night you spent questioning your worth, every dream that didn't go as planned, all of it was molding you, refining you, and removing what was weak so that only what was strong could remain. Isolation doesn't take away your power, it reveals it. It strips away everything that's fake, temporary, and dependent until all that's left is your truth. The chosen man learns to sit in the fire without flinching. He learns that his greatest growth often hides behind his greatest pain. Because pain is not there to break him. It's there to awaken him. It awakens his discipline, his focus, his inner clarity. It teaches him to stop blaming others and start building himself. That's when he realizes that every storm that came to shake him was actually sent to strengthen him. Isolation becomes the forge, and he becomes the weapon being shaped by divine hands. You see, power doesn't come from easy seasons. Power is born from the moments that make you question everything. It's born from those long, silent nights when you wonder if you're on the right path, if all your effort even matters. It's born from the days when you have nothing left but faith, when you keep going not because you see results, but because you feel a deeper pull inside your soul. That's what turns purpose into power. The decision to keep walking even when you're bleeding, to keep believing even when you're broken. And there's something sacred about that process, because while the world sees isolation as weakness, the chosen man sees it as transformation. He understands that solitude is where the shift happens, from needing others to needing clarity, from seeking attention to seeking alignment. When you're isolated, you don't have the distractions that keep you numb. You start hearing your own thoughts, your own intuition, your own truth. You realize what's real and what's been holding you back. The noise fades, and what's left is your purpose staring back at you. The chosen man learns that power doesn't always roar. It often whispers. It's the quiet confidence that comes from surviving what should have broken you. It's the strength to stay calm in chaos, the wisdom to move slow when the world rushes, the faith to trust timing instead of forcing outcomes. Isolation trains you to stop reacting and start responding. It makes you unshakable because you've learned that peace is not found in people or places. It's built within. When a chosen man embraces his isolation, he stops fighting the process. He stops trying to escape the pain and starts mining it for meaning. He realizes that every scar carries a story, every loss carries a lesson, and every quiet season carries a seed. That seed is his wisdom, and once it takes root, nothing can stop it from growing. Pain becomes power because it no longer controls him. It fuels him. The very thing that once wounded him becomes the foundation for his strength. Most people run from solitude because it forces them to face themselves. But the chosen man faces himself head on. He stares into the mirror of isolation and sees both his flaws and his potential. He learns to forgive himself, to heal from the past, and to release what no longer serves him. In that silence, he rebuilds. He refines his habits, his mindset, his discipline. He replaces chaos with clarity and doubt with direction. And when he steps out of that isolation, he carries something unbreakable inside him, self-mastery, because that's what isolation does. It transforms you from the inside out. It teaches you that strength is not about control, but surrender. It's not about forcing life to move faster, but about trusting that every delay has purpose. It's not about being fearless, but about having faith even when fear whispers in your ear. The chosen man doesn't fight the darkness. He learns to see in it. He learns that the absence of light doesn't mean the absence of hope. Sometimes the darkness is just where the roots grow before the bloom. And that's what separates him from the rest. While others crumble under pressure, he becomes pressure. While others panic in silence, he finds peace there. While others seek shortcuts, he embraces the long road, knowing that what's built slowly stands the test of time. Isolation trains him for endurance. It teaches him how to move without applause, how to stay focused without attention, how to stay grounded when no one's watching. Because when the time comes to step back into the world, his power won't come from validation. It will come from resilience. There's a different kind of wisdom that comes from being alone. It's not the wisdom of books or teachers. It's the wisdom of experience, of observation, of stillness. You start seeing patterns in life. You understand that every connection, every delay, every disappointment had a role to play in shaping your purpose. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, thank you. Because you realize the pain was not punishment, it was preparation. Every moment of isolation was sculpting your character, refining your focus, deepening your faith. And slowly, the chosen man stops seeing isolation as a curse. He starts cherishing it because he knows that the man he's becoming could only be born in silence. He understands that true power doesn't need to announce itself. It radiates naturally. The more he grows, the quieter he becomes. Not because he's lost his voice, but because he's found his peace. Isolation teaches him that not everything needs a reaction. Not everyone deserves an explanation, and not every battle is worth fighting. His energy becomes sacred. His presence becomes intentional. And his purpose becomes unstoppable. When he emerges from that season, he's not the same man who walked in. He's stronger, wiser, calmer. He's learned that peace is power. He's learned that patience is protection. And he's learned that every lonely night was building a foundation so solid that no storm can shake it. He no longer fears solitude. He respects it because he knows it's the birthplace of strength, creativity, and vision. That's why isolation is a sacred space for the chosen man. It's where he transforms his pain into wisdom, his confusion into clarity, and his purpose into power. It's where he learns that everything he needs has always been within him. It's where he discovers that sometimes being alone isn't about losing people. It's about finding himself. And when he does, he walks with a calm confidence that doesn't need to be explained. Because those who've walked through the fire don't need to prove their strength. They embody it. And when you look closely at the path of a chosen man, you start to notice something that most people miss. The path is narrow. It's not crowded. It's not flashy. And it's not designed for comfort. The chosen man's path is narrow because it demands purity of purpose. It requires focus so sharp that distractions can't survive there. It's not that he doesn't want to enjoy what others do. It's that he can't afford to. The narrow path filters out everything that doesn't align with his mission. It strips away the unnecessary so that only what's essential remains. A chosen man doesn't have the luxury of being careless. His steps are deliberate, his choices intentional, his actions disciplined. Because when your purpose is pure, your path becomes sacred. You start realizing that not everything or everyone can come with you. You stop trying to please everyone because you see how it dilutes your focus. You stop chasing validation because it distracts you from the vision. The narrow path forces you to decide what truly matters. And once you make that decision, everything else starts to fall away. Most people crave a wide path, one with comfort, company, and approval. They want to belong, to be accepted, to be understood. But the chosen man understands that the wide path leads to mediocrity. It's where dreams die quietly under the weight of comfort. It's where men trade potential for popularity. The narrow path is where you meet yourself. It's where your limits are tested, your weaknesses exposed, and your character refined. It's not easy, but it's necessary because the narrow path doesn't build followers. It builds leaders. When your purpose is pure, the path naturally becomes smaller. There's less noise, fewer options, fewer people who understand you. But in that tight space, something powerful happens. You start to focus on depth instead of width. You stop spreading yourself thin and start going deep into your craft, your faith, your mission. That depth is what separates those who live with meaning from those who live for attention. The chosen man learns to trade quantity for quality, surface success for spiritual alignment. The narrow path becomes his refining fire. You can't fake your way through a narrow path. It will expose everything false in you, your impatience, your ego, your hidden fears. It forces you to face what you've been avoiding. It challenges you to let go of shortcuts and illusions. And that's why it's not for everyone. Many start, but few stay. Because purity of purpose isn't something you talk about. It's something you live through discipline, integrity, and endurance. Every day on that path demands honesty. Every step tests your motives. Are you doing this for recognition or for growth? Are you walking for applause or alignment? The narrow path doesn't let you hide from those questions. It demands answers. It's easy to lose sight of that when the world glamorizes success built on speed, shortcuts, and social validation. But a chosen man understands that purpose can't be rushed. He doesn't measure his progress by how loud his name is, but by how solid his foundation has become. The narrow path keeps him grounded. It teaches him to value patience over popularity, because when your purpose is pure, your growth may be slow, but it's steady. And steady always wins in the long run. There's a certain peace that comes when you fully commit to that path. At first, it feels lonely, almost suffocating, like the walls are closing in. But over time, you realize those walls aren't there to trap you. They're there to focus you. The narrow path removes the clutter, the noise, the distractions that pull ordinary men off course. It teaches you that less is more. Less talking, more doing. Less showing, more building. Less seeking, more becoming. In that silence, your clarity sharpens and your spirit strengthens. The narrow path also teaches you humility, because when you walk it, you realize how small you are compared to the vastness of what you're pursuing. You learn that purpose isn't about ego, it's about service. It's about aligning with something greater than yourself. Every obstacle you face on that path becomes a test of faith, a reminder that strength isn't about control but surrender. And the more you surrender to the process, the purer your intentions become. You stop fighting for position and start aligning with purpose. People will question you when you choose this path. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're too serious. They'll think you've lost your way when in truth you've found it. They can't see what you see because their perspective is wide. And yours is focus. You're looking at life through a different lens. You've traded distractions for direction, comfort for calling, attention for authenticity. That's why the chosen man is often misunderstood, because purity of purpose can't be explained to those who haven't experienced it. The narrow path demands sacrifice. It requires you to say no more often than you say yes. You'll have to turn down opportunities that don't align with your vision. Distance yourself from people who drain your energy, and let go of habits that weaken your focus. Every no strengthens your yes. Every sacrifice cleanses your purpose. That's how the chosen man protects his energy, by filtering his environment through intention. He doesn't just move, he moves with meaning. And through all of this, the chosen man learns discipline, because walking a narrow path isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. You'll stumble, you'll fall, you'll question, but you'll keep walking, because even when it feels like nothing is happening, growth is taking place beneath the surface. Every challenge is chiseling your character. Every delay is deepening your patience. Every rejection is redirecting your focus. That's the hidden beauty of the narrow path. It doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you need. As the chosen man walks further, he realizes that purity of purpose doesn't just change his actions, it transforms his entire being. He becomes lighter, freer, more authentic. The need to impress fades away. The desire to prove disappears. All that remains is alignment, a deep inner knowing that he's exactly where he needs to be. That's when the narrow path starts to feel less like a burden and more like a blessing, because he's no longer walking against resistance. He's walking with flow. And this purity of purpose starts radiating through everything he does. It's in the way he speaks, the way he works, the way he carries himself. He no longer needs to shout his worth. The world can feel it. His presence becomes his message. His consistency becomes his proof. Because when you're aligned, your energy does the talking. You don't chase opportunities, they find you. You don't demand respect, you command it through authenticity. That's the quiet power of the narrow path. It strips you of everything fake so that only your truth remains. It molds you into someone the world can trust, someone who leads not by noise, but by example. And that's what the world needs. Men whose purpose is pure, whose focus is unshakable, whose faith is steady. Men who are not moved by trends, applause, or attention, but by truth. So the chosen man keeps walking. The path may be narrow, but it's his. It may be lonely, but it's divine. And though few can walk it, those who do are the ones who truly change the world, not through force, but through purity, patience, and purpose. And when the chosen man embraces solitude, he begins to understand something profound. Loneliness is not his enemy, it's his teacher. Loneliness trains him to depend on faith, not approval. When the noise fades and the people disappear, when no one is clapping or checking in, that's when his faith is tested. It's easy to believe when everything is working, but faith isn't proven in comfort, it's proven in silence. When there's nothing left but his belief in himself and in the purpose that drives him, that's when real strength is born. Loneliness has a way of stripping away illusions. It exposes the parts of you that relied too much on validation. It shows you how fragile your confidence was when it depended on compliments. It reveals how conditional your peace was when it relied on other people's presence. The chosen man learns that no one can walk his path for him. No one can carry his vision. No one can feed his spirit but him. And that realization can hurt at first. It feels heavy. It feels isolating. But over time, it becomes liberating, because once you learn to depend on faith, you stop being controlled by the opinions of others. When the chosen man learns to stand on faith, he starts walking differently. He stops asking, "Who's with me?" and starts saying, "Whoever's meant to be will find me on the way." He understands that approval is temporary, but faith is eternal. Approval can vanish the moment you disappoint someone, but faith holds steady even when you're misunderstood. He no longer builds his life on shifting opinions. He builds it on unshakable conviction, and that conviction becomes his compass. It guides him through confusion, through setbacks, through storms that would make ordinary men quit. Faith teaches him patience. It teaches him that timing is everything, that the silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is being prepared. Loneliness becomes less of a void and more of a classroom. Every quiet night becomes a lesson in trust. Every unanswered prayer becomes a test of endurance. Every delay becomes proof of purpose. And as the chosen man leans into faith, he starts realizing that what looks like a pause is often divine preparation. People often misinterpret faith. They think it's blind hope. But for the chosen man, it's disciplined trust. It's not waiting aimlessly. It's working while waiting. It's holding vision in one hand and perseverance in the other. It's waking up every day and showing up even when nothing seems to change. Faith teaches the chosen man consistency. It tells him, keep planting the seed, even if you don't see the harvest yet, because he knows that unseen roots are growing beneath the surface. And one day, when the time is right, those roots will push through the soil and bear fruit. In loneliness, distractions disappear and faith takes center stage. When you have no one to rely on, you start listening to that quiet inner voice that says, keep going. The chosen man starts realizing that faith isn't about knowing how, it's about trusting why. He doesn't need to see the entire staircase to take the next step. Every move he makes in solitude becomes a declaration that he believes in something greater than what's visible. That's how his spirit matures. That's how his strength becomes real. The chosen man also learns that faith doesn't remove fear, it overrules it. Loneliness will whisper doubts. Fear will try to creep in, but faith speaks louder. It reminds him that he's not alone, even when he feels like it. Faith gives him the power to keep walking through uncertainty, to stand tall when he's misunderstood, to remain kind when the world turns cold. It anchors him when everything around him feels unstable. And that's why loneliness becomes sacred, because it's the training ground where faith is built. As his faith grows, so does his clarity. He starts recognizing the difference between company and connection. He learns that being surrounded doesn't mean being supported. He learns that solitude doesn't mean an emptiness. It means alignment. Loneliness helps him see who really stands with him and who only stood around him. It filters his circle, purifies his energy, and teaches him discernment. That discernment is what keeps him from falling back into old patterns of seeking validation. Because faith has now become his foundation, not approval. And it's not just spiritual faith, it's faith in himself. The chosen man learns to believe in his own instincts, his own discipline, his own power to rise. He no longer waits for others to believe in him before he acts. He becomes his own source of confidence. He starts seeing that every time he survived something that should have broken him, that was proof of his strength. Every challenge becomes evidence that he can trust himself. That self-trust is the purest form of faith. It tells him that no matter how lonely the road gets, he has everything he needs to finish it. The beauty of loneliness is that it forces the chosen man to build his own inner world. He starts creating peace within himself. Instead of chasing it externally, he learns to enjoy his own company. He learns to find meaning in stillness. And as his inner world grows richer, the outer world loses its power over him. He stops chasing fleeting pleasures because he's found something lasting, contentment. That's what faith gives him, the ability to feel full even when he's alone. And slowly, his loneliness transforms into solitude. It's no longer painful. It's powerful. It's where he recharges, where he thinks clearly, where he dreams without noise. He stops feeling sorry for being alone and starts being grateful for it. Because now he understands that loneliness was never meant to weaken him. It was meant to train him. It was preparing him to stand strong in moments when others would fall apart. It was teaching him to lead himself before leading anyone else. Faith and loneliness together shape him into something rare, a man who can walk through the storm without losing his direction. He doesn't panic when people leave. He doesn't crumble when plans fail. He doesn't chase approval because his faith has made him unshakable. And when he finally stands on his purpose, when he looks back on the path he's walked, he sees how every lonely moment was necessary. Every quiet season, every unanswered prayer, every night spent wondering why, all of it was molding him into who he was meant to become. That's the paradox of the chosen man's journey. The moments that felt like abandonment were actually elevation. The loneliness that felt like punishment was divine preparation, because in the absence of others, he found the presence of faith. And once a man learns to depend on faith instead of approval, there's nothing left that can control him